Difficult. Women.
Oh.
Hey.
Sober Marie over here.
Sober Katie sitting over here.
That's right.
I'm weird when I'm sober. I'm weird all the time, though. So.
I know, it's very strange. I have focus now. These two ladies who are doing Dry January, together we make the Difficult Women podcast.
Huzzah.
Woo! I want a martini. That's what a gin.
This morning.
Yeah.
A morning. I miss my morning martinis.
I miss my Sunday morning martinis. No, actually, I do not like drinking brunch. I've learned my lesson because,
I don't like it.
No.
It ruins your day, especially if you're busy.
Oh, totally. You got to go back and do some work when you're
bad.
freaking drunk and hungover.
Not anymore.
No more.
No more.
Never again. No, it's fine. We're sober. It's great. Happy Dry January.
I have some good news.
You do?
Yes. Are you ready for this very exciting news?
I'm holding on to the table.
Affects mostly me for the immediate moment, but it's going to affect all of us very, very soon.
What?
The numbers are going down. The Omicron numbers are going down.
Oh, thank heavens.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've been following that shit so close. I had it on my calendar. I was like making predictions. I was like, this is what it's going to, and I've been pretty close. So, yeah.
So, but are they going down across the world, across the country, across
just in New York City?
Oh, okay, great.
Just the places where it hit first, like the big cities where it hit first, it's going down. But some of y'all in the smaller towns, hang in there because it will go down. And the pattern, okay, this is nerdy, real quick, just bear with me. The pattern is basically it'll go up, and then once it starts to plateau, it'll plateau for about like 2 weeks or so. Just hang in there for those 2 weeks, and then it's going to start to go down. Oh. And then it'll go down pretty fast, according to South Africa. Anyway, that's just your little science fact of the day.
And then the Voltron variant will be coming up.
It will absolutely be coming up. So that's why you have to still get vaccinated
and boosted. So I've learned several of my friends are not boosted. I guess it wasn't time for them to get boosted, but once it's your turn, go get boosted.
I think actually now it's everybody's turn over 12.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So
my friends who are 13, go get.
Yeah. No, I have a friend that young, very healthy, blithe woman who she got vaccinated. She was uncertain about getting vaccinated. I encouraged her to get vaccinated. She did. And then she got the Omicron variant, but she hadn't been boosted yet. And she fared better than she would have if she hadn't been vaccinated. But she probably would have been better off being boosted. And she got sick around Christmas, and she's still not feeling great.
Oh no.
So that's the thing about this shit, is it like the long COVID is what really scares me. So get vaccinated because it helps. They're finding more and more that vaccinations do help prevent long COVID. So hopefully her symptoms will start to go. But get boosted too to help with long COVID.
Every time I think I have brain fog, I realize I've just taken a gummy like the day before. And there's like
yes.
Just carries over into the next days after.
I feel like I have brain fog, but I think it's just how I was born. It's just born with brain fog.
Well, I wanted to give our listeners just a little update, and also you, because you weren't there yesterday.
Oh my God, yes.
You guys, so as you know, we've been working on our third album. We started recording it this summer. So it's a long process because we're doing it as safely as possible because we are still in a pandemic. So Katy came down to Nashville. We tracked our vocals and our instruments. And then we sent all of our tracks to a drummer, and she did all the drumming for it. And so we got that back. And then yesterday, in person, we worked with, Katy was in New York. I'm in Nashville. But so we worked with this woman named Annie Clements, and she is Maren Morris's bass player. So I got to hear all these fun stories of tour and stuff. But so yesterday she came to our studio out in Old Hickory, Tennessee with our producer, Dana Cadora. And at the same time, so this woman, Annie, is very busy. She tours. She's also a mom of a 19-month-old baby. And so
are they moving or something too?
Well, they're going out to Montana for like 3 months to actually like be music. Her and her husband are like going to be music consultants or something for this big resort out there. And so they're leaving for 3 months on Tuesday. So she was in town for a very brief time and needed to get her hair done. As we all know, girls, that shit is important. Best. Yeah, we got to look our best. And she was like, I really have no time. And like, I guess there was some problem with her recording setup in her home studio. And so that's why we moved it to doing it at our producer's house. And then she asked if she could get her hair done while tracking the bass. And at first we were like, what? That's crazy. Well, let me tell you, this woman knocked it out of the park. She, I've never really dyed my hair, so I didn't even understand like what was happening really, the process of it. But so she has like dark red hair, or it's been dyed like a darker red. So they had to strip her hair first with bleach. So with the foils and stuff. And so then she tracked like 3 songs that way with just a whole head of foils. Then Backstage Barber Productions was the hairdresser. That's their Instagram if you want to check it out. But it was the wife that was there doing the hair, but then the husband was there too as her assistant. So it was just this fun little production of like her getting her hair done, tracking bass for our album. And then at one point, so they took the foils out. Again, I don't know how this stuff works, but like the bleach didn't remove enough red. So then they had to do it again. So it kind of added like 3 extra hours or something to the whole thing. But so then she kept tracking, and then we got Katy. I didn't tell you this. We got an extra song for free.
Oh my God, amazing.
Because she was just there. Yeah. And so,
oh my God, that's amazing.
But because of that, they were like actually putting the foils in while she was tracking bass. This woman is like the talent of her was just so...
This is why you work with women, because we can multitask.
We can totally multitask. She was getting calls from her husband, who's on tour right now. She was getting calls from her mother-in-law, who was babysitting her baby. Like, it was just such a great day to just see how women work. Like, here's this hairdresser who's like making it work with her wonderful husband helping her out. Then Annie there, two take wonder. She would just do 2 takes of the bass. And our album sounds so incredible. I'm so excited. You guys, it's going to be great. Anyway, it was really fun. And another thank you to Annie Clements. Look her up. She tours with Maren Morris. She's in all different other kinds of bands around Nashville and stuff. Really, really badass. It was just such an honor. So
that's so cool. I wish I could have been there. But
I know.
I'm glad you could have, though. That's really
me
awesome.
too. Yeah. And at first I was like, maybe I shouldn't because of COVID. But I did test before I went, and we wore masks. And so everyone was very responsible because we don't know what's happening. So it was great. I felt really, really safe and just so happy and thrilled. And again, our producer, Danica Dora, is fucking killing it. She had so many great ideas, and it was, I don't know. I just got very, very excited.
She's also somebody you should look up in terms of music. She has beautiful, beautiful music.
Yes. Yeah. So
and
anyway,
a cool side project called Hula HiFi, which is like, if you like, I'm really into that kind of thing. It's like this sort of tropical vibes, and it's very cool. And
it's
a very
really
cool music video. Anyway,
it's neat that we're actually, we said it, I think said it first on the pod of just that we're committed to working with women on our 3rd album because we've made our past 2 albums with men. And we're slowly but surely doing it. And it just feels really right and really exciting.
It's really cool.
And now we just have to get a guitar player and then mix it and master it and then publicize
eventually. In 2030, it will be out.
It's really great.
Wonderful, yeah.
But it's really awesome. So anyway.
Well, speaking of exciting, multitasking, strong, vibrant women, today we're a little behind the times on this one, but better late than never. We're gonna talk about Betty White, but more specifically, what we can all learn. She is just a chock-a-block full of life advice, and not that she had advice, but the way that she lived her life demonstrates a way that we should all be living on multiple planes. She was brought to us from heaven.
From heaven, truly.
She's like a Jesus figure and teaching us how to live.
Well, I do think that we're just so lucky to have had her in our lifetime. Just truly to have this role model, and for her career to, 99 years old. And believe it, so her birthday was yesterday, the 17th. So this episode comes out the 18th. Her 100th birthday was on the 17th of this month. And one thing that I did notice online that a lot of people are doing to honor her is the hashtag Betty White Challenge. And that is to donate $5 or as much as you can, really, to any sort of humane society in your local, animal shelter, because Betty White was such a huge advocate for animals. She always said that acting and performing was definitely her job, but her reason for like living and giving back, like she needed to act and do that sort of stuff so that she could help the animals. And I didn't know that. I actually didn't know that.
She actually named her, we'll get to this later, but she did name her first production company after her dog too.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, she just loved animals. But I have to say, like, can you imagine a better way to be honored than by people all coming together to like give to something that you really cared about, you know? And for her to care about something like that is so lovely. And I love that. And I will absolutely donate.
Yes, please donate to your local animal shelter in honor of Betty White. I think that is such a great way to honor her.
So maybe that's a good place to start, right? One of the things that we can learn is about giving to your community and giving to the causes that you care about and really devoting a lot of your life to it. It doesn't have to be this thing where it's like, look at me, I'm donating. It's more about like, look, this is something that I feel strongly about, this cause, and I'm going to participate in that cause. And we've talked about this on the pod before, but this country, we don't always emphasize, like, volunteering feels like an extra thing that you do, and then you kind of show it off and you're like, oh, look at me volunteering, or people kind of use it that way. But it really should be ingrained in our community, because we don't have to help build a sense of community and to be helping community, especially as we move into the new way of living when we get rid of our capitalist society. We're gonna have to think. I'm just preparing everybody for the inevitable. But I just think that that's like a really special aspect of her, that she would do these things, and she would promote them so that other people would get involved.
Right.
But it didn't seem like something where she was like, I'm so amazing. Look at me saving the whales or whatever, or the dogs.
Yeah, because it was just ingrained in her DNA that she would just do. I mean, the documentary, the one that came out in 2018, there's actually footage of her feeding marshmallows to like a grizzly bear.
I saw that video.
Like, oh my God. It actually kind of made me really nervous, but she seemed so at ease with the bear. And that I didn't know that her family would go up to the Sierras and camp for like 3 weeks at a time. And she glows when she was glowing when she was talking about the animals that they would see in the wildlife when they were camping way up there. And so I think that it was just ingrained in her at such a young age. And that's just another thing that makes Betty White just the most incredible human.
Yeah, that's another thing too. It's like, I think that, again, she didn't strike me as someone that was like a real nature trekker, like going out on hikes all the time. Right. But that's what they did. That her family did take them out on these. They would go on a lot of these like camping type trips. And like that aside, like let's say you don't like camping, fine. I'm not saying like you have to go camping now because Betty White likes camping. But I think there's something to be said for just like respecting and honoring when I saw a thing where she was talking about it, was almost just like a respect then an honor for the earth that we come from, and to have a little bit more of that in our daily life as best we can, even in a crazy city like New York City.
Right.
Just find that one patch of grass.
Hug a tree. Didn't you
smell
hug a tree?
Yeah, hug a
Didn't
tree. Oh my God, I love trees.
Well, I want to say, so her earlier career, I would say that she, and something that we can learn from her, is just adaptability. The way that she was able to adapt from just her early start. What was it? Like she was on a radio show at first, and then they asked her to then do it on television for 5 hours a day. And she didn't say no. She just adapted to that. And then they asked her to to do a live taping of 30 minutes of the Life with Elizabeth show that they filmed in LA. And I think she said like, I don't think this is really going to work, but I will try it. And then it worked fine. And she just is, her whole career, it just seems that she was quoted saying like, I'm such a whore, I can't say no.
I love it.
Which I fucking love. But it also is just like, so I love that attitude of like not saying no, and adapting to the situation. And then like, I'm kind of skipping around her career, but I thought it was interesting that with that hot in Cleveland.
Yeah, hot for Cleveland. Hot in Cleveland. Yeah,
hot flashes in Cleveland.
I kind of want to see it now. I missed it when it.
But I think that this is also about her. You could say about her career is that like she agreed to do the pilot, but was like, I'll be too busy to actually film the show, but I'll try the pilot. Like, what's the odds of it actually getting picked up? And then it did get picked up, but she had so much fun filming the pilot. She was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And that's just like knowing what brings you happiness, and then and that is actually saying no to other things because you're happy doing this other thing. So and I don't know personally because I'm not in Hollywood. I would love to be in Hollywood if you're listening. But I think that probably is pretty rare in Hollywood to choose projects just because they bring you joy. It seems like a lot of times people are doing it for money or fame or whatever, but it seems like she always was making her decisions based on if they brought her joy.
And finding ways to make that work. You know what I mean? Like, and of course, like she was in the industry for a long time, so everybody knew her. So maybe she had some ability to make those choices that other people wouldn't be able to make. But like in any of our jobs, again, we're not talking about just being like an actor. Like whatever your work situation is, you can find places to make sure that you're happy in that situation. You know what I mean? You do have more control over it than you maybe think. And the other thing about adaptability with her and like her work environment, number one, she was able to not only adapt to the different mediums, like where she was able to adapt from radio to TV and from TV to like the different kinds of roles she was doing within TV, but also just like get way past what people would consider her prime or something. She was finding places where she still fit in. So she was doing a lot of voiceover, which is like something she hadn't really done. She'd done radio, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? All of these things, if you don't know the entertainment industry, you might think, well, it's all under the same umbrella. It's like, well, yeah, but they're all different skill sets. And not everybody is good at all of them. And she was good at all of them because I think she'd go in and she'd figure out, how do I need to thrive in this environment? And then she would figure it out and do it. She did what she had to do to make it work. The other thing I thought was interesting in terms of adaptability, because I think a lot of people right now might be going through this, so I thought this was worth mentioning. She lived through World War II, and World War II itself totally threw her career out the window for a period of time. So she had been becoming like a rising star in radio. She was modeling. She was really starting to build like a resume and a career. And then World War II happened. Everything kind of stopped. And she had to stop what she was doing. She ended up volunteering to help deliver items and things like that. And there was what was the quote? Sorry. Oh yeah, they quoted her. They asked her about that time period. She said, it was a strange time and out of balance with everything. And it made me think so much of the time that we're in right now. And I know a lot of us have been having shifting work situations and trying to figure out what comes next. But what I liked about that, what was hopeful about it, was that her plans were like dashed, right, by the war. But then she was able to come back. She was resilient enough and adaptable enough to come back and be like, okay, we'll just, now that we have some, the war's over, what happens next? And she went right back into it and did what she had to do. And in your case out there listening, maybe it's not that you do the same thing, but to have the resiliency to be like, not feel like, oh, I'm fucked. Like nothing will ever be okay again, and to have the foresight to be like, no, it's, that was a blip in the road. Here's the next step for me,
She also knew what she wanted. She wanted a career. And I think that that's really a beautiful thing, especially back then. Yeah, she was married 3 times. And it sounds like the first one, when she was volunteering, American Women's Volunteer Service, she met her first husband. And they married and they moved to Bell Center, Ohio, where Barker owned a chicken farm. And he wanted a simpler life. And she was like, no. And so they divorced and she moved to Los Angeles. And then she married Lane Allen, a Hollywood talent agent. They divorced because he wanted a family and she wanted a career, which this woman just knew that she wanted to perform. And then she married, I love like that in the documentary with Alan Ludden. He was the host of, Password. And like they were flirting early on and just like their relationship. And also I thought it was just interesting that he had to ask her to marry him twice because and she said no because she really wanted to focus on her career. But then But then she just...
But he helped support her career.
Yes.
That was what was so great about that relationship, was that like that, I mean, that's another lesson, is like, don't settle for bullshit you don't want, you know? Because like, there are people out there that are there to help support you and help you grow. In addition to that, she was not a spring chicken when they met. I mean, she was like in her 40s or something when they met. So sometimes you're like, the love of your life doesn't come around when you're 20. Sorry, you know, children or whatever out there. Sometimes it takes longer. You have to know what you want. You have to know who you are.
You have to love yourself in order to be able to love somebody else, I think.
Yeah, and I think you said, and you have to know really what you want out of life, so that's why it is kind of. I mean, look, sometimes people meet people and it's perfect. So I'm not saying don't get married if it's really working out, but like sometimes, you know, people settle because there's pressure to get married and pressure to have children, and she was like, I don't want those things, and she lived a very happy, fulfilling life without children, and unfortunately, she lost her husband, but she also says over and over again, I got to experience the love of my life. Yeah. Which is such a beautiful thing. Well, I guess another place. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to say this one thing. When she was on the Actors Studio with James Lipton, he asked her when she, like, let's talk about heaven sort of thing. And that he asked if she thought heaven existed. And like when she would walk through the pearly gates, what would God say to her? And she said that God would say, come on in, Betty. Here's Alan.
Oh. Well, did you know, I don't know if this is true, but I read that her last words were Alan. And a side note that
I'm crying. I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
And side note, there is we should do an episode of this because I'm getting obsessed with it. But there's a lot of stories about people that work in like nursing homes or like in hospitals or hospice. And very, very frequently, like very, very, very frequently, one of the last things the kinds of things that people will say as they're dying are things like, oh, it's grandma, or hey, Jim, or hey. And it's like they're seeing people that have passed over. So I like to think that, and this would track with other people's experiences, potentially. I mean, you know, we'll talk about it later, but that maybe he was there to come bring her over to the other side.
Oh my gosh, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop crying. That is
it's lovely.
It is so pretty. It's so pretty.
It's so pretty. And that she was able to still live this like incredible, she was in mourning, I'm sure, but she also was able to, this is a great lesson, was able to look at the situation and reframe it so that it wasn't just like, I've lost the love of my life. What do I have left to live for? She knew that she had lots to live for, and that was just a part of her life. And she was sad to have lost it. I'm sure she would always have wanted more time with him, but she didn't allow that to stop her from living. Do you know? And that she was able to go with gratitude, look back on what she did have with him, honor him, love those, cherish the memories of him. I'm sure she felt sad sometimes about it, but then also continue to live, you know? And I think that one of my grandmothers, when her husband died, she was just like lost. I mean, we lost her. It was it. And she lived for another like a long time, like another 5, 6, 7 years, something. I can't remember exactly how long, but she didn't want to live anymore. And she didn't, and she kind of deteriorated. And it was like, we all were watching this happening. And I remember thinking like, I don't want to go like that. It was awful. What I loved about Betty White is she's like, you know, she just kept going.
Right.
My other grandmother kept going and had, I think I've said this on the pod before, but she was like 90 and I was like, what's your plan or whatever? And she's like, well, in 10 years I'll be doing this. And I was like, and she had a plan. Walking around. She had a plan. She had lost 3 husbands. So she'd also survived World War II. She was from Hungary and stuff. So she was persecuted by Nazis, all that stuff. But she had been resilient, kind of like, not that Betty White went through that, but she had that same resiliency and was able to like take the gratitude and take from what she had and then also move forward with what was actually present now and, you know, not get too into the down in the dumps about stuff that didn't go right, you know? Anyway, side note, unrelated to that thing I last mentioned, but I thought this was a fun fact.
I'm still crying over here. This is like,
I know,
is ridiculous.
I know, it's beautiful. Her life is beautiful. We can learn from it.
Yes.
Side note, fun fact. Did you know that she was brought in to play Blanche. She auditioned for Blanche.
Oh.
And then she turned it down in Golden Girls. I'm talking about Golden Girls if you didn't know. And she turned it down and said, I want to play Rose instead. Back to like what she knowing what she wanted, she was like, I don't want to play this part. I want to play this part. And they were like, okay. Because she was more of a Blanche. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever watched Mary Tyler Moore Show, but I was like obsessed. Thank God for Nick at Night, because I was like obsessed with all those old shows, and I loved the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And she plays Sue Ann Nivens on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and she's catty. She's kind of a bitch. She's like sexy but older. Like, she was not like a young like 20-something woman. She was like, I think in her 50s or something when she played the part. But so fucking funny. I mean, like, so fucking funny. So she was a natural fit for Blanche, this like sexy kind of sex pot, whatever. So I can see why they wanted her to play that part. But I love that she was sort of like, I can do more, you know, and I want to try this instead now.
I think maybe my favorite character on television.
God. I love Rose.
Well, I think again, like, this is just perseverance, but yeah, she had that role in her 50s on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and that some people say that's what catapulted her career. I mean, she had a huge career before that, but that really brought her to the mainstream, and she was over 50 years old.
And what's cool about that is that, like, so the lesson there for people is you are never too old. This fucking goddamn society we live in is so obsessed with youth and so obsessed with like the 30 under 30, 20 under 20, da 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 da. I mean, here's a good example of like the pressures of that. Elizabeth Holmes, I don't know if you've been following any of that stuff, but she came up with that. She had claimed that she was going to like cure cancer or something, whatever, with this like whole medical thing. It was all a ruse because she was feeling so much pressure to be like, she was like the first billionaire under 22 or something. I'm making all that up. And now she's like going to go to jail because she was lying about it. But the pressures to like be the best or whatever at a certain age, it's like, it's overwhelming. And then people start to feel like I'm over the hill when I'm 35. And it's like, fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that.
Fuck it.
Like, get your big thing at 50. Get your big thing at 80. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, just keep doing what you love. Or never get the big thing. Who fucking cares? Just do what you love, and don't let people tell you you're too old to do shit. Right. I'm so over that.
Right. And don't settle. I think that's the biggest thing. Never settle. Look at us. Still single.
Look at us. Still here. We're doing great.
Yeah, we're great. Not drinking. We're fabulous.
Wait, here's another thing that does remind us of us.
Yes.
That she did. that we tried to do. Is she started her own production company. Mm-hmm. She became one of Hollywood's first producers, and she called it Bandy Productions, named after her dog. And what I want to say about that, in terms of like a learning something for your own life, is blaze your own trail. You know, we did that with the band. We were like, fuck this. We cannot make it through. You know, we're really banging our heads against the wall with this entertainment industry. Let's do something we like instead. We didn't even know we'd like it until we tried it, but we like tried this thing out. We said, you know, we're going to do it our way. And we have had a modicum of success that I'm very proud of. And I love that.
I also like that gender didn't even occur to her. Like, it really didn't seem to occur that like she was the first female producer. She was just like, it was just my job, and it was natural, and like I was good at it, and I figured it out and just did it. And like the gender didn't ever come into play in her mind, or you know, she just did it.
Yeah, I attribute that to her parents a lot too, because like, so she was an only child. Her mother kind of doted on her, but I think in a really nice way, not in like I think she says like, I was spoiled rotten, and I think she was, but like with love, it seems like. And I think that, and I assume that her dad must have been a stand-up guy too, because that unit seemed very healthy. So, and like, you know, healthy units produce healthy children for the most part. Yeah. So I love that idea that like she really didn't have to. Actually, that's an interesting thing. I wonder for you, the side note, I was sort of, I mean, my dad was raised around women because he had two sisters and then my grandmother, and he was always very like, we never had conversations like girls can do anything, but he definitely was like always pushing me towards the sciences and math and like engineering and things like that. So just without me thinking about it, similarly, as an only child, I never thought that much about boys versus girls until I got older, and then school kind of started to be like, oh, wait a minute, some of these guys are getting treated differently or things like that. But ingrained in my brain was more of this idea that like, what's the big deal? And then the rage came when I saw that society doesn't do that. Maybe that's where my rage comes from.
Right.
But for you, like you grew up in a house full of women. So similarly, it wasn't like you were being raised with a brother. So it wasn't like you were seeing like, oh, dad's treating, my brother like this, but treating me like that. So how do you think that means anything? I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we ever really thought about it. I also I was born with this gumption that my sisters did not have. Like just this perseverance of I can do anything. Like my mom's favorite story of me when I was a baby was like my older sister was trying to figure out how to do a somersault and like she couldn't figure it out. And then I, as like, a year and a half, just like kept like figured it out and did it and just kept doing it and kind of like showing off that I figured it out before my older sister. And it was just, and she had another story of like a ball rolled under the couch and Rachel started crying. And then I just like pushed the couch as a baby, just like pushed the couch out of the way to get the ball. And then Rachel was like, yay. But I think that's like my whole MO is like, if anything's in my way, I'll just push the couch out of the way to get
that's
what I
interesting
want.
Because I think for me that also is like, because the famous story that my parents would tell is that like we had a jungle gym in the backyard that they had gotten me, this like little wooden thing, and I was a little bit like unsure of it when we got it, so I kind of would go over to it and kind of try to figure out like I should have tried, but then I couldn't quite get across. But they were like, we'd watch you, and it was like day after day you'd go out and a little bit further you were like figuring it out. How do I do this? And then it's like, a couple of days later we looked out and you're going back and forth over the jungle gym. Same idea where you're just like, I just need to like, I'm not going to quit because I can't do it. It's like I'm going to figure out how to make this work. And I think sometimes because this is now just private conversation. I mean, this will be on the pod, but just that like sometimes I forget that that's not inherent to people because a lot of the women and people that I hang out with tend to be like that. So that's a good thing too. So if you're someone that doesn't necessarily have that urge to keep pushing through and all that, like sometimes we don't need that, right? Sometimes you don't have to be that person. You can also we need different types of people with different personalities. But if you're, I don't know, if you're afraid of taking risks, like maybe try and see what happens.
I mean, I definitely think Betty White took risks and never really, it just seems like she just went for it. And
it was, and I think natural to her. Right. That's the thing. So one thing I don't want you to feel, what I'm trying to say is like, if you're out there being like, well, that's not natural to me. Don't try to be something you're not, but there's small ways in which you can like
don't ski that mountain. Do the tubing instead.
Yeah, whatever makes you happy.
Floats your boat.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of happy, I love that Betty White described herself as a cockeyed optimist.
Yes.
And I mean that is such a wonderful way to live life, is through positivity. She said, don't complain. And I've actually been very guilty as of late because I have all these new jobs and like they're very challenging, and I've been complaining a lot, I think, to my friends and my family, and like I really want to stop complaining because I'm so grateful for where I am and how and to be challenged. Like, thank God, like what a great way to live, and I don't know. I really like that idea of don't complain, don't stop complaining, and be optimistic and be grateful.
Yeah. And I know that there's like a thing going on right now. I was thinking about this earlier, that like about toxic positivity, which is sort of like, just be happy, just be happy, just be happy, which is very prevalent in our like social media right now because they're just trying to
totally
I don't know,
pull you out
of that, sell you on that thing. And look, we're living in a horrible time.
Horrible.
You know what I mean?
Horrible.
So if you're not feeling happy all the time, that's totally fine. And if you're not naturally optimistic, that's even okay. But I think that what I think the lesson, and Marie was just saying it, which is that like, but try to, if you can practice a little bit of gratitude for what you do have, it's not about like, it will just make your life better. I promise you. Like, it will just make your life, you will feel better every day. And then if you're feeling better, you can treat other people better. And
it's infectious.
And it is, yeah. And it just, I don't know. I've been on both sides of this. I guess I'm speaking from someone that has been fully on both sides of this coin, where like depression has fully overtaken me and I'm just in like the darkness. And the idea of like, just be happy makes me want to shoot somebody, which is not a threat.
Right.
But it really makes you like homicidal, because you're like, you don't fucking know what I'm feeling right now. You're going to tell me to be happy? What do you have to be upset about? It's not about that. I have a chemical imbalance and I'm fucking struggling.
Right.
And one of the things that's really helped me come out of my depression is that gratitude. Is being able, just for the little things. And people sometimes will be like, what am I grateful for? I don't have a job. I don't have whatever. If you're breathing, if you're walking on two legs, if you're able to, you know, have a conversation with another human being, if you're able to, you know, there's something to be grateful for, you know? Even if you can't walk on two legs, there's other things to be grateful for. Maybe you're grateful for the fact that you're still alive, you know, and you have a friend or something, or your pet, or and it builds. I just want to say that you build it. It doesn't always come right away. It takes time to find what you can be grateful for.
Right. Well, I haven't talked about this on the pod, but I'll go ahead and say this. But a couple months ago, my mom had a heart attack, and it was awful and it was so sad, and she's fine. But when I had therapy the next couple of days, I told my therapist, I was really upset. I was crying. And she was like, what are you grateful for from that? And I was like, nothing. There's nothing to be grateful. And she was like, she didn't die. She didn't die then. She was able to get to the hospital. She was able to get good care. She's alive. She has her family. I mean, that's the thing, though, is that like you have to then reframe it in your brain and find the gratitude, because it can just pull you down if you really just succumb to it. So it is a choice. And that's why I think Betty White, going back to her, is that like the shit that she went through her entire life could have just brought her down. But she chose to reframe it in her brain, chose to look at it with an optimistic eye and to love. And I think also like she said and led with what she thought and would tell people her thoughts. She wouldn't let things weigh her down. She just like lived unforgivably herself and was brave and didn't hold anything back. And I think that is just, again, it's perseverance, it's adaptability, but it's also just leading with love and gratitude and humor, like
humor is and not taking life so seriously.
Yes,
I think that's part of it.
Yes, it's absolutely beautiful way to live.
Yeah, and I want to add that, like, again, like if you're in a place right now while you're listening to this where you're not feeling good at all,
right,
and you're feeling like whatever, what Marie said about the choice is really important, because it does not feel like a choice when you're really depressed. It does not feel like a choice. It feels like it's happening to you. But if you're able to even just start to find that spark of how like there is a little bit of choice in this, and that's where the gratitude really helps, where you can say like, okay, I can look at this glass as half full or half empty, right? Literally, you can say this glass is half full or half empty. That's why we bring that thing up all the time. And if you can start saying, okay, it's half full, and I'm grateful that it's half full, and I'm not like ungrateful for the half that I've lost.
Yes.
So that's where you have to like, that's where the reframing comes in, and that's where the choice comes in. So if anybody's just wondering like, what choice is there? There's choice in how you see the world. And it's hard to understand that when you're in the worst of it, but I'm hoping that like, just watch some Betty White, just like, take some notes on that.
I love that. She also has been quoted, that it's very important to sleep, to get your 8 hours of beauty rest.
Love it.
And 9 if you're ugly.
Oh. I need 11. I love it.
Isn't that funny?
So funny. I mean, and oh God, that sense of humor. I think also, not everybody's like naturally funny, but just finding the funny in things, everybody can do that. Everybody can find funny. And not mean. I mean, that was kind of mean, but it's funny. It's fun.
Well, on the set of the proposal on her last day, it's in the documentary, but I'm just saying it again, but she turned to the crew and said, "This was the most fun I've ever had standing up."
Yeah. She's so good.
Oh,
so
I just
good.
like her like perverted sense of humor also.
Yeah.
Like there was that sexuality that like came through. I mean, especially when she did when her jokes with Rose and on the Golden Girls it was so unexpected. And it kind of made me think a lot about our act, because you were able to like get it in there by looking sweet and whatever. and then really drop those bombs that make people
I think that those mean jokes, those like quote unquote mean jokes, work the best when the person saying them is actually very nice and kind.
Yes.
I think when we hear mean jokes and they feel really mean, it's usually because that person has a lot of anger, like real anger and like hatred toward whatever they're talking about. You see that a lot in like open mics and stuff where these guys are like shitting on women, and it's not funny because they actually feel that way. And she doesn't really feel that way about that stuff.
Yeah.
Another big lesson I think we can all learn from Betty White, and this people have been talking about this a lot on the internet, but it's worth mentioning again, is her advocacy for other people. And the famous story that's been going around is that when she had her Betty White show, that was her show that she was producing, she featured Arthur Duncan, who was a tap dancer, and started getting a lot of hate mail or a lot of pushback and saying like, we really don't think you should have a Black person on the show. We really don't like seeing Black people on TV. And she wrote back and she was like, well, I'm sorry, but not sorry. Like, we will use him as much as we want to. And she then, from that point on, she didn't want to shelf him, and she gave him every opportunity she could to be on the show. So anytime there was a space for him, she would bring him on. And he talked about it since then and has said, like, she was the reason that I had a career, because people got exposure to him and were like, oh my God, this guy's great. We'd like to have more of him. And he ended up being Arthur Duncan became the first Black performer who was a regular on a variety show on the Lawrence Welk show. I love Lawrence Welk.
The Lawrence Welk show.
Lawrence Welk is from the Dakotas. My grandma loved him. And so that, and I don't think that would have happened if she had not been out there advocating for him and like making space for him. And I think it's like white people, we talk about this on the show. Sometimes we wonder like, what is it that we can do to be real allies? And some people go out there and they start speaking for other people, or they push themselves in the front and say like, oh, this is how it is. Or on the other end, people go, well, what am I supposed to do? It doesn't really affect me. So what can I really do to help? This is a perfect example of like what we can all be doing, which is that she used her power and her voice to stand up and make space for somebody who deserved the space, and she got canceled for it in the end. And she was willing to put this job that she had been working for, and could have, shows like that, you never know, it could have been the Betty White show for 50 years or something, and she lost that opportunity. But she was like, it's fine, because I'm resilient and I'm gonna find something else to do after this, and it's worth fighting for. She also turned down a role in As Good as It Gets because there was a scene where they throw a dog down a chute, like and she's just like, I'm not okay with that. I
didn't know that.
Yeah. So, that's another place where she was advocating for the thing that she believed in. And she believed people should be treated fairly, animals should be treated fairly. And so she lived the way that she felt, she didn't kowtow to. And that, Betty White's show was early-ish in her career, not early, but like she had a lot to lose, and she was willing to lose it.
Well, I thought it was interesting that she would say, I'm not an activist, I'm an advocate.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
And I think that that's great. And being an activist is great too. But like, if you don't feel like you are an activist, you can still advocate. You can still, when you're in a group of people and someone's talking shit about another group that, is like the LGBT community or women, if you're men in a group of men and they're talking shit about women, you can be the one to stop and go, dudes, that's not cool. It's like not cute.
Right.
That's all. Even that it makes such a big difference.
Also,
shut people down.
Her worth ethic, I think, is just worth bringing up, is that it seems like even in her old age, she came prepared. She would be, when she wasn't needed on set, she'd be in her trailer or close by, like practicing her lines with her assistant. Like she was just so prepared and professional at all times. And that, you hear of other actors, I know like Kristen Heigl got like a really bad reputation of being kind of nasty and stuff. It's like nobody ever said that about Betty White, because she always came prepared and just was so joyful to be around and so kind to every single person on crew, from like the caterer, from the craft services to the executive producer. She was just kind to everyone, and that makes it that is something I really, really want to remember. Well,
I think just and again, like, even if you don't work in the entertainment industry, that idea of like you can be kind to people. We should be
from the bus boy to the executive chef. Yeah, it's like,
and from like the guy you don't like, you can still be kind to that person. You know what I mean, or at least try.
Yeah,
I have my moments, but that kindness is definitely something that we're missing. And be kind on social media, maybe and that's something I had to step away from, where I was like getting into these fights with people over like politics and stuff. And not that those things aren't worth fighting for, but it's shocking how quickly those conversations devolve. They're not conversations. They just devolve into name calling so quickly. And we don't need to do that anymore. We don't need any more of that in this world. And she was certainly not somebody that did any of that, which is cool. And then also in terms of work ethic, just in terms of relating it to something outside of like learning your lines in like an entertainment way, the thing about what that translates to me for like a regular person is that like when someone is prepared at their job or whatever the task is going to be, whether it be work or an activity or whatever it is, and they're present and they're prepared, that is a gift to the people around them.
Right.
So let's talk about it within the spectrum of your family. If you're the person that's in charge of the dishes, then you go and you do the dishes because it helps alleviate the stress from the rest of the community, right? Which would be like your family. If you're working at your job and if you're a server and you're not like pulling your own weight in a serving capacity, you're not working with your fellow teammates and it's putting more shit onto them. You know what I mean? And that kind of stuff, like that's where you can translate that into your everyday life, where it's like, what am I supposed to be bringing to the table here? And am I bringing it or not? Because it's not just about yourself like growing as a person. It's about how is that going to also make everybody else's life around me easier too. You know, and I'm not saying like you give yourself to everybody and, we're going to do things for other people. But it's like, look, if you're responsible for something, be responsible for it. Show up.
I love it. Well, we're coming to an end. Do you have any words of wisdom to pass on?
Yes, one more. We should absolutely start doing this Golden Girl House thing.
Oh, girl. Yeah, I mean, definitely.
This should be a thing.
Absolutely. I mean, we are definitely going to do that. And that actually personally, like, it takes the pressure off of getting married or like, getting married, having kids, like all that societal pressure.
And they were still dating in that house. It wasn't like they weren't dating. They were fucking doing it.
Yeah. We're going to be snorting Viagra.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't really want to do that. You can do that if you want.
But I've always envisioned, like, I want to have like, not to sexualize men, but I'm going to get like real young pool boys to come and like,
sure,
you know, we'll have happy hours every Friday with our pool boy who walks around in a cute little like neon banana hammock thing and serve us past hors d'oeuvres. Like that is where I hear this a lot. Like, oh my gosh, I have to have kids because who's going to take care of me in my old age? I'm like, fuck that shit. Like that. I do not want to dictate my life thinking and worrying about the future, because if I have the Golden Girls Ranch that I plan on having with horses and, you know, our farm or garden or
roommates too, so they can help take care.
But it will also be gigantic because we're going to be fucking multi-millionaires by then too. So it'll be a huge space where like I'll have my own little. We'll all have our own little mini mansions or whatever. It's the potential is incredible. So that's my goal, and you're gonna be there. Jeremy will be there. Like,
I'm super into it. And as a person that like went back into like almost like a college living situation in my 30s, like I was like, what am I doing? Like, and there's sort of a perception that it's kind of lame if you have a lot of roommates after you're an adult and stuff. Holy shit, it was so fucking fun.
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yes.
We had, I mean, I miss having, I like living alone, but like I do miss that, having that little built-in community where we did take care of each other. We did watch out for each other. We were built-in entertainment for each other. And we all got along really well. I mean, it is honestly community living. Something we need to explore more.
Absolutely.
As a society.
We should invite
you could be an old person and married and still live in a community situation.
Totally.
So it's not like just for single old bats or whatever. It can be for like anybody that's older, that they're not just like isolated.
Right.
And not in like a home that's like state you know, where
I was
someone
just about to say, it's not a nursing home. No,
it's like a, and it's
Miami.
and it's not even like, I don't even want to live in one of those communities that's already made, that's like in Arizona where they're like, oh, we're golfing.
Margaritaville.
Yeah, I want like, it's like a real house that people all live together. I mean, and I don't even have a problem living in the same house. Like, I kind of like that too, where maybe you have your wing, but it's like... Anyway, that's my last word of wisdom from Betty.
Yes, but also what a cool thing to like pool your expenses too, and then have this like grand place to all live together. I'm all about it. It's gonna happen.
And then like also like it's hard for older people to like keep their places clean. One of the reasons why they get pushed into like old folks home and stuff is that they can't keep up with some of the like maintenance. But if like you have 6 women all doing their little part, then you can keep the place clean and tidy and safe, and everyone's watching out for each other. Like that works.
We're gonna get a housekeeper as well. And a personal chef.
We don't even need it. I think we could do it ourselves.
Are you kidding me? Who's gonna change my diaper?
I will. That's the whole point.
Oh, that's okay. That makes me really happy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really nice. I was thinking like Elvira would. That's our housekeeper's name.
She's from Transylvania.
Yeah, we're like, you have to wear this.
Yeah, it's really random. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I can't wait. Yes. Okay. So Betty White.
She makes me feel excited about getting older. That's a big takeaway. It's not all downhill after 25.
Yeah. Oh well. I hope you all enjoyed
Betty.
this episode. Yes, this one's for Betty.
Let us know if we missed anything. If there's anything you think that you've learned from Betty White that we should have mentioned.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.